So these are the ways to find corporate video clients: low fence connections, startups, LinkedIn, and meetups. Alright friends, welcome back. So today I would love to talk with you about a topic that I get asked pretty frequently, and this is how to actually find corporate video clients, especially in a city like New York. And I want to give you the honest answer, not the fluffy stuff you see out everywhere else, because I think a lot of the advice out there around corporate filmmaking is either too generic or just doesn't reflect what actually works in the real world. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what I do, what has worked for me, and what would I do if I had to start and find clients from scratch. Hi, my name is Ben. I'm the founder, creative director of 24 Stills, a boutique video production here in New York. And on this channel, I'm going to share with you my story of building my company and also all the learnings I've had on the way. So let's talk about low fence connections. The first strategy, and honestly one of the most underrated one, is what I like to call low fence connections. And when most people think about go to find clients, they immediately think about Instagram, posting reels, building a following. And yes, this can be important, but I think people skip one of the most underrated starting point, which is starting with people you already know. Think about your existing circle. Who do you know that is running a business? Maybe who is working on something that you would really love to help out. Small business owner, the coffee shop you grab your coffee every morning, or just a friend who started working in a new company. These are what I like to call low fence connections. You don't have to climb very high to get into it. There's already some level of trust. And in corporate filmmaking, trust is more or less everything, because companies are not hiring you, they want that you are able to represent their brand. When I came to New York, a friend of my wife was working at a big US tech company at that time, and just because I told her what I was doing and building, she made an introduction to one of her marketing colleagues. To be honest, it didn't work out, but just this introduction showed me and taught me a lot how to approach people and companies. And also, if you talk with someone who works for a company, don't just ask if you can work for them. What I like to do is asking a lot of questions about the company, about the product, and then thinking out loud what kind of video this company could need. So start there, make a list, talk to people. It sounds simple because it is, and honestly, it works. Startups, the sweet spot for corporate video, which brings me to startups, especially because I think this is one of the most overlooked opportunities for corporate filmmakers, especially in a big city like New York. Here's why I think startups are great. They're essentially small corporate companies. They have teams, they have structures, and they're building a brand, a product. And in the best case, they already raised some funding and have sometimes a decent budget for content. They're not a massive enterprise with a locked-in agency relationship, and they're not a one-person show with zero money. They sit right in the middle, and this makes it very approachable. And the content needs for a startup is pretty huge. They need brand videos, they need recruiting content, and they also need social content that makes them look professional. They need pitch decks with video. Corporate video productions is a core need for them, even though sometimes they don't know teams that they can rely on and work with yet. So how do you actually find startups? I like to work with two platforms. Crunchbase. This is a database of startups and companies, and you can filter them by industry, by city, or by funding stage. So if you're into a specific industry, you can literally find companies that are actively growing there and who might have money to work with. The second one is Built-In. This is a more tech and startup job board, but I also like it as a way to discover companies you have never heard before or that are building something. It can be very interesting because you are able to differentiate depending on which city you are. I will put the link down in the description. I like to spend an hour or two on these sites. I make a list of 20 or 30 companies that resonate with me, and then I start reaching out. This is one of the most targeted ways to build a corporate video client list and a reach out list. LinkedIn, the most underrated platform for corporate filmmakers. Okay, let's talk about LinkedIn. And I want to be honest with you. If you're doing corporate filmmaking, I would prioritize LinkedIn over Instagram. 100%. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have Instagram. It's a great portfolio tool and it builds credibility, but your actually target audience, the marketing managers, the brand directors, the comms people, the head of content, these people who actually have the budget and the authority to hire corporate video productions, these people are on LinkedIn. So here are 3 concrete ways to use LinkedIn for your corporate filmmaking business. First, start posting. I know it feels uncomfortable, it feels cringy, but you have to start showing your work, sharing your perspective on corporate video, talking about your project, behind the scene, what's going on. Your audience is there. And I've personally been reached out multiple times through LinkedIn and turned those conversations into real paid gigs. It really can work. You just have to show up consistently. And second, use the search function actively, because this is how most people do it. You go into LinkedIn, you search, you look for certain companies, for certain industries, and then you look who is there and who you might can talk to. Marketing managers, content leads, brand managers, comms people. You just send them a short message. Keep it human. Don't make it a sales pitch. Just introduce yourself, mention something specific about their company, and maybe it opens the door. And third, LinkedIn Premium. I haven't personally used it, but I've heard consistently from other people in the corporate filmmaking space that the advantage search is very good and that you are able to message more people outside of your network, and this makes it easier to reach out to different people. It's not cheap, but if you're serious into building something, maybe that's a good way to invest something into it. Meetups and in-person events. Okay, I know, this sounds super old school. Meetups, in person, it really feels like early 2000s. But honestly, I really think people are going back to in-person communities. Especially in a city like New York, there are events happening every week, every day, and they are full of people you actually want to meet. Now, I also want to acknowledge that it is really hard to walk into a room full of strangers. It feels really uncomfortable, but the way I like to reframe it is, I'm not there to pitch. I'm just going to talk to people and see what happens. If there's a nice connection and it makes sense to exchange cards, great. But if not, it's totally fine. And here's one thing about corporate filmmaking especially. A lot of your best client relationships will come from someone who you met in person, who liked you in person and then thought about you when it came down to a video project. That's just how it mostly works. And there are 2 platforms that I like to use for looking for events. First, meetup.com. Search for marketing meetups, startup meetups, or entrepreneur events in your area. There are a ton of them and they're usually free or very cheap. And the second one is Eventbrite. Same idea, lots of professionals and industry events, and I will drop some of these links here in the description. One more thought about this: if the idea of a professional network event still feels like too much, try this. Think about your hobby. What do you like to do beside your job? And honestly, go and look for events around this topic. If you are full into gardening, maybe go to a gardening event and see who you meet there, where conversation leads. Free to fee. And the last strategy, this one is a little bit controversial, and I want to be honest about that because I think it's worth talking about it, especially if you're early in your journey. So maybe you've gotten some email addresses, you've been reaching out to clients, but nobody's really getting back to you. Or maybe you don't have a strong enough portfolio yet and you are not able right now to close that first real client. You know you can do the work, but you don't have to actually prove yet. In that case, I would always suggest what I like to call free to fee approach, offering a small, well-defined project for free, just to get your foot into a door and start building that relationship, to create a piece of work that you can bring on to your next client, but in the best case also working with the current client. And this is very important. I'm not saying yes to every client. I made an entire video about it, when you should say yes and when you shouldn't. And there are really red flags out there you need to watch out. So watch the video, because doing free work the wrong way can actually hurt your business. But done right, free to fee is a solid strategy. It's how a lot of corporate filmmakers land their first real clients and break out of the frustrating circle of having no portfolio, having no clients, having no portfolio. Alright friends, to wrap it up, these were the 5 strategies for finding corporate clients for your video production. 1. Start with your low fans connection, the people that you already know. 2. Look at startups, Crunchbase or Built-in. They are an amazing sweet spot for corporate filmmaking that you could really approach. 3. Get serious about LinkedIn. It's the platform where all the decision makers are right now. 4. Show up in person and go to a meetup event. Be a human being. And 5. If you need to, do the free to fee approach to break into the market. These are not overnight strategies. They really can take time, but this is what actually works in the real world of corporate filmmaking. Let me know in the comments, what's your biggest challenge right now when it comes down to finding clients? I would really love to hear it and learn something for myself. Thank you so much for watching this, and I see you hopefully in the next one.